Welcome back to Entertainment Explained, your go-to destination for unlimited movie recaps. Today I'm going to show you a 2011 drama, comedy, and biography movie called The Intouchables. The story begins at night in Paris, where Driss is chauffeuring his boss Philippe across the city. Driss begins to drive after exceeding the speed limit because sitting in traffic gets boring. The police quickly come after them, and Driss, unaffected, doubles his bet with Philippe because he believes they can get an escort. After the police catches up to them, Driss claims handicapped Philippe has to be taken immediately to the medical room because he is having a stroke. After approaching Philippe, the police sees Philippe having seizures, which is also an act. Given the urgency of the situation, the police forgive Driss for exceeding the speed limit and offer themselves as escorts. While traveling to the hospital, Driss plays a song to celebrate his winning of the bet. As soon as the police leave the hospital, he and Philippe enjoy a cigarette. After that, Philippe asks what they will do now, to which Driss answers, "Now, let me take care of it." And he drives them away just before the hospital staff could find them. Then the story goes into the flashback, where Philippe and his assistant Magali are searching for a new caretaker for Philippe. However, things aren't going well because every applicant has extremely predictable or unsettling responses to their interview questions. The interviewers are taken aback when Driss barges in and demands them to sign some documents stating that they won't hire him in order to receive unemployment benefits. Although he is a little rude and direct, even hitting on Magali, Philippe finds him funny and asks him to return the next day to pick up his signed documents. Returning to his modest neighborhood house, Driss tries to take a bath while his younger siblings bother him. Only his older and more responsible sister Mina helps him finish in time for the bath. As they wait for his mother to come, he sees his brother Adam stepping out of a suspicious car. Driss is even more convinced that Adam is up to something when he enters the apartment, but he just says he was at school before leaving again. When his mother arrives in the evening, he gives her a stolen Fabergé egg and responds to her question by saying he's been on vacation. However, she isn't happy to see him, because after going missing for 6 months without making contact, he has suddenly appeared as if her home was a hotel. She tells him not to come back, kicking him out since she's had enough of his lies and has to take care of her other children. Driss spends the night with some friends from the neighborhood, having some food and cigarettes. When Driss returns to Philippe's house the following day to pick up his paperwork, Yvonne, the housekeeper, greets him and gives him a tour of the property as well as an update on Philippe's daily activities. She also shows him the room he would have all to himself, which includes its own bathroom. Driss can't stop looking at the bathtub until he's dragged to see Philippe, who gives him a job opportunity in addition to the signed paper. After Driss agrees to the 1-month trial, Philippe makes a bet that he won't make it through the very first 2 weeks. After bringing his things to his room, Driss receives training on how to look after Philippe. He has to be trained how to get Philippe into a wheelchair, keep his legs moving, and assist with taking a shower and getting dressed. As Driss discovers that he has to clean Philippe's butt after he uses the bathroom and put on some high stockings, things get uncomfortable. Despite his objections and refusals to carry out these tasks, Driss eventually accepts them as part of his duties. Later in the evening, Elisa, Philippe's daughter, and her boyfriend Bastien interrupt him while he's having a snack on the roof. They're seeking a quiet place to make out, so he kicks them out after refusing to share his beer. Even though at first he makes some mistakes he learns from, like giving Philippe the phone instead of putting it to his ear, or forgetting the baby monitor while taking a bath, Driss rapidly adjusts to the daily routine with Philippe. Apart from that, he learns how to arrange his mail into various folders. He reads the majority of the letters for Philippe, but some are private and he isn't allowed to open them. When he finds a flyer promoting female escorts, he decides to start a file just for those instead of throwing them in the trash, as Philippe says. But despite everything, Driss still makes time for fun. He constantly tries to make out with Magali, but to no avail, and occasionally he calls escorts to join him in bed. One morning when Yvonne comes to scold Driss for being late, she finds some dangerous weapons in his backpack, but she doesn't say anything about them at the moment. Driss's job today is to drive Philippe around, but he refuses to put him in the back of a van as if he was cargo. So instead, he takes him on one of the fancy cars that is rarely used. Though Yvonne strongly disagrees, Philippe, who initially believes this is inappropriate and that they should be practical, quickly becomes excited by the idea of a quicker, more exciting drive. As they try to leave the building, a neighbor's car is parked in front of the main door, ignoring the sign on the door that says it's forbidden. Without wasting any time, Driss chases after the man, seizing hold of his shirt front and threatening to hurt him until he moves the car. His actions impress Philippe, but once again, Yvonne is not impressed by him. When they visit a museum, Philippe wants to buy an artwork, but Driss argues it's just a red stain on a canvas, thus it's not worth the money. After that, Philippe meets with a relative, who informs him that Driss's aggressive behaviors pose a concern for everyone. Furthermore, he discovered that the man has a criminal history, but Philippe doesn't care because he enjoys making jokes with Driss, and doesn't feel pity for him. Driss has dinner with Yvonne in the kitchen while listening to Philippe dictate a letter to Magali. Yvonne switches off the baby monitor, saying it's a private talk, and explains what's happening. These are the letters Philippe refused to let Driss open. Philippe is pen friends with a woman named Eleonore. However, their relationship is solely spiritual. He has never really met Eleonore. In relation to love, Driss makes fun of Yvonne for the constant stares the gardener gives her before going to bed. As he tries to fall asleep, he hears strange noises coming from the baby monitor. Philippe is struggling to breathe. Driss, unable to ignore him no matter how hard he tries, walks to his room and uses a moist cloth to clean his face and comforting words to help him through the attack. After a while, Philippe falls asleep. However, a few moments later he wakes up again and says he needs air. Driss doesn't think twice this time. He quickly straps Philippe into the wheelchair, covers him with blankets, and they go for a walk by the river. For the first time in a long time, Philippe is seeing Paris at night. Now that he's more at ease, he tells Driss that the medication can only treat so much, and that he occasionally feels phantom pain. When they see some girls passing by, Philippe admits that, due to his circumstances, he is unable to satisfy a lady, but that he may still feel some satisfaction from having his ears massaged because they are sensitive areas. When the phantom pain returns, Driss shares one of his joints with Philippe, who is initially dubious but eventually grows to love it. After that, they head to a restaurant where they laugh and eat, and Philippe makes the decision to tell more of his story. He had met his wife while they were still students, and not long after their marriage she suffered 5 miscarriages and received a terminal sickness diagnosis. That's when they adopted Elisa. Philippe has always loved competitions, extreme sports, and speed, and paragliding gave him that. He broke his back in a paragliding accident due to bad weather, yet he still believes that living without his spouse is his true disability rather than the chair. Following some more light-hearted jokes, Philippe recalls the date and realizes that Driss has successfully completed his 1-month trial, making him an official hiring. However, he has to first return the stolen Fabergé egg because it was a present from his wife. She used to give him one every year, and he now has exactly 25, marking their anniversary. When Driss visits Mina the following day as she is leaving school, she informs him about some police officers who have been visiting their house. Mina is a little irritated that he hasn't been responding to her messages, other than asking her to find the egg. After that, he goes to see Adam, who admits that 30 grams were found on him. Driss offers to take him to lunch, but Adam declines and boards the same dubious-looking car as before. Later, Driss is permitted to stay as Philippe dictates to Magali his letter for Eleonore. He finds Philippe's purple prose to be extremely dull and feels that he should be more direct. He is also surprised by the fact that, despite their 6-month relationship, they have never exchanged pictures. Following his intuition, Driss calls her after discovering her phony number on one of the letters, forcing Philippe to pick up the phony and finally speak to her outside of written communication. Philippe and Eleonore have such a great chat that he ends up talking to her on the phone all the time. Before they go to the opera, Driss teases Philippe by laughing at the outfits. The following day, Driss persuades Philippe to agree to swap photos with Eleonore, selecting a photo of him in a wheelchair. Later, as he's painting, Elisa barges into his room demanding cigarettes and mocking him for attempting to be artistic. He gets upset and throws her out before going to visit Philippe, who is requesting that Yvonne swap out the selected photo of him with one from when he wasn't paralyzed. Yvonne hides the picture inside the escort file right before Driss storms in, raving about Elisa and telling Philippe he needs to discipline her, a point Yvonne agrees with. Although Philippe agreed to speak with her, he is mostly taken aback when Driss admits that he has been painting. Days go by, and Philippe and Driss's friendship gets stronger every day. Driss takes him to play in the snow and goes for a run with him. Philippe gets him his first outfit and scolds his daughter while Driss listens to him on the baby monitor. Driss shows Magali his finished painting, but she slaps him when he tries to kiss her. But Philippe says he will try to sell the picture because he loves it, enjoying things like sharing joints, hiring escorts together, and purchasing a faster car. The two of them have an amazing time together. Philippe isn't really thrilled about his birthday when it finally arrives. Every year on this date, he has to meet with all these relatives who come to see him merely to ensure that he's still alive. And he acts shocked that they're having a party. Everything will be quite dull, according to Philippe. Driss goes in search of Elisa, who is crying in her room after taking some of Yvonne's pills, which don't kill her as she thought they would. Meanwhile, Philippe and the guests enjoy some live classical music. She is depressed since Bastien called her a brat and broke up with her, so she asks Driss to speak with the boy, and he agrees to do so in exchange for favor. In the meantime, Philippe convinces a relative to buy Driss artwork for 11,000 euros. Returning to the dining room, Driss strikes up a conversation with Yvonne, who informs him that Magali is seeing someone named Fred. Though things are a little difficult right now, this gives Driss hope. Philippe makes Driss listen to some of the most significant songs in the history of classical music as the party starts to wind down, but all he can do is laugh. Once the band is done, he brings his iPod, puts on a song, and then leaps to the center of the dance floor to begin dancing. Philippe adores seeing him dance because he's such a great dancer, and even gets the other guests to join him. Later, while Driss puts Philippe to bed, he reads Eleanor's most recent letter to Philippe. In it, she includes a picture of herself, which indicates that she is quite attractive, and she suggests they should meet when she is in Paris next week. On the day of the date, Philippe is dressed in different outfits by Yvonne and Driss, until they find the perfect outfit. Since Yvonne is the one who will be taking Philippe on the date, Driss takes use of his day off to visit Bastien. He threatens him until he agrees to bring Elisa croissants every day and apologize to her. He also asks him to change his hairstyle. After that, he pays his mother a visit at work, but he merely watches her from far away. Yvonne and Philippe are at the restaurant waiting for Eleanor, who is running extremely late. After an hour of waiting, Philippe gives up, contacts Driss to ask him to take him away, and then leaves the restaurant without realizing Eleanor is arriving at the same time. That same night, Philippe takes Driss with him in his private plane, and gives him the money he got for selling the picture, making him immeasurably happy. The following morning, after arriving in the countryside, Philippe decides to go paragliding and drags Driss along. Despite his initial fear, Driss begins to enjoy the experience. Adam is there waiting for Driss when they reach home, and he gets called out when Driss notices the scars on his face. But since Adam still won't tell Driss what's going on in his life, Driss orders Adam to remain in his room, while he contacts Mina to reassure her and gets Philippe ready for bed. But Philippe isn't quite tired yet. He asks Driss about his family after compelling him to gaze at a painting alongside him. At first, Driss is reluctant to talk about it, but finally gives in. It turns out that, in a technical sense, Adam isn't his brother, and that, in reality, his parents are his aunt and uncle. His birth name is Bakary Bassari, but since other children had the same name, they nicknamed him Idris, which eventually became Driss. They brought him back from Senegal when he was 8 years old since they were unable to conceive. His aunt became pregnant one day by a miracle, and more men and children after his uncle's death. Philippe notes that Adam requires discipline, just like Driss had discussed Elisa with him. As a result, he fears Driss to make time for Adam and his family, realizing that he can't spend an entire life caring for an old man. The following morning, Driss packs his bags and gets ready to leave when Bastien brings his daily croissant and rocks a much cleaner hairstyle. When Driss tries to make a final attempt at flirting with Magali, she introduces him to her significant other Fred, which is short for Frédéric. It turns out that Magali isn't interested in men, so Driss gives up right away. As he leaves the house, he gives Yvonne back the baby monitor and pokes her for lying to him about Magali in order to get even with him. She gives him the escort file he started in exchange, but he is unhappy to see the picture he selected is hidden in there. While Driss throws away the file, he keeps the picture for himself. After leaving, he discovers that the same car is blocking the entry once more, so he requests that the driver move, even though he is no longer employed there. When Adam confronts him about it, Driss responds that it's a matter of principle. A few hours later, the two boys drive to the station to pick up their mother. Back at the house, Philippe is eating his first supper with his new caretaker, who is stuffy and uninteresting, and Philippe chooses to leave without eating anything. No one is around to criticize him because Yvonne is out on a date with the gardener. Days go by, and Driss returns to his former life. He reunites with his old friends and orders the man in the suspicious car to stop bothering Adam. He describes himself as pragmatic and uses all the art knowledge he learned while working for Philippe to wow the employer when he goes on an interview that he has no expertise for. As a result, he is hired as a driver. Philippe continues to dislike his new caretaker and is in a constant bad mood. One night, he refuses anyone in the house to help him with his phantom pain. So Yvonne calls Driss and asks him to come over. That's how the situation begins involving them, with the police chasing them first and then escorting them to the hospital. Following their little adventure, Driss takes Philippe to the coast, where the view of the ocean calms him. Later, after tending to Philippe's overgrown beard, Driss brings him to a restaurant for lunch, but he doesn't stay long because Philippe will be spending the day with someone else. Driss wishes him luck and finally returns his egg before leaving. Philippe begins to worry about being alone until he realizes that his date is Eleonore, who is thrilled to see him and doesn't mind the chair at all. Now residing in Morocco, the real Felipe Pozzo di Borgo is the father of two girls through his second marriage, and real Driss, whose true name is Abdel Yasmin Selou, is also married, has 3 kids, and runs his own business. To this day, the two men remain very close friends. As the movie reaches its conclusion, we witness the impact of this extraordinary friendship on both Philippe and Driss. The film leaves us with a sense of hope, showcasing the transformative power of human connection and the ability to overcome life's challenges through laughter and compassion. If you haven't seen this cinematic gem, I highly recommend it for its powerful performances, heartwarming story, and the reminder that true friendship can flourish in the most unexpected places. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to Entertainment Explained for more content, and let me know in the comments your thoughts or any other films you'd like me to recap. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next video.